it is the opposite.
High fly ball, deep left field. Oh, 27 does it again.
Gone. Fernando Tatis Jr. with a two-run shot has the Padres on the board.
Go. That's his 11th home run. Driven out to deep center field. Going back, Springer turning, looking, see ya. Oh, what a shot by Judge. The Yankees lead 1-0.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode number 37 of the Free Baseball Podcast, super late night edition. It's 9:50 on the East Coast because I am a little late. My fault. So we can just go ahead and jump right into it. I am Dave Spur, as evidenced by my name being on the screen. That's crazy, I know. I'm joined as always by Jake Crumpler. I was able to pull him away from the new Pokemon game long enough to do the podcast. So got some stuff to talk about. How's Pokemon? You're playing Violet, right?
Yes, sir. Free advertising right here. Go get the game if you have a Switch. If you don't have a Switch, then you should probably not get one. But yeah,
look at it.
Exactly. It's a lot of fun. It definitely has its things that you can knock. It's definitely an unfinished rush game, but it's every Pokemon game. So I mean, if you're not a Pokemon fan as of now, this probably won't change your mind, but yeah, it requires a lot of nostalgia and all that other stuff. But yeah, it's been pretty fun. I'm excited for you to get your own copy.
Absolutely. Speaking of nostalgia, our comeback players of the year. Look at that segue, Jake. Look at that.
Wow, that was incredible.
I know.
Comeback should get paid players for this.
Oh, we really should. Tell Devin. Comeback players of the year. Old guys. AL comeback player of the year is Justin Verlander. 39-year-old Justin Verlander of the Houston Astros, potentially of the New York Mets. Have you seen the reports?
I have seen reports that they've been talking to him. It sort of fits the billing as they just went after Max Scherzer last year. So just like a Hall of Fame caliber old starting pitcher that has a lot of balls. So I think there's a possibility he ends up there. I sort of have no idea what Verlander prefers, especially after winning his second ring and winning the Cy Young Award. But yeah, it's been a really incredible season for him. This is definitely not what I expected when he was coming back, but he had Tommy John surgery in the middle of the 2020 season, missed the rest of that season, missed all of 2021, and came back at the age of 39 to pitch what could be considered the best season of his career with a 1.75 ERA across 175 innings with 18 wins to win that aforementioned AL Cy Young Award. So yeah, he's well deserving of that award.
Absolutely. And another guy, old man, NL comeback player of the year, Albert Pujols, who had a Renaissance man season. And what will end up being his swan song season, unless he's gonna, just decide like, okay, guys, anyway, coming back, probably not gonna happen.
No way,
because he's like 72 years old. But yeah, anyway,
72,
Albert.
More like 42. Yeah, at the age of 42, winning comeback player of the year is pretty crazy. But if you look at his career, it's definitely warranted. He's sort of fell off a lot, especially after he went over to LA. But over the last couple of years, it's been pretty unfortunate, sort of culminating in that awful 2019 where he had like a 90 WRC plus. Actually had a 77 WRC plus in 2017, but it hasn't been above 100 since 2016. And last year he sort of looked like he got it back together when he was with the Dodgers, but going back to his old stomping grounds in St. Louis really brought the life back to his bat. He had a 150 WRC plus, which was his best since 2010. He hit 24 home runs, good for 1.8 WAR, as he's not really a guy who has too much value in the field, but yeah, definitely deserving. He surpassed Alex Rodriguez to become the fourth all-time leader in career home runs, and now he sits with 703, becoming the fourth player ever to cross that 700 threshold. So that's what an incredible career from one of my favorite players growing up, and this was definitely the icing on the cake for that career.
Absolutely. I've never been a big Albert Pujols guy just because he's terrorized my own personal baseball team, but he is obviously one of the literal greatest baseball players that has ever lived and most likely will ever live. So seeing him honestly put a perfect, movie ending to his illustrious career still is very nice to see. I'm sure he's a nice guy. Never met him. Albert, come on, podcast.
That'd be sick.
Yeah. So congratulations to Albert Pujols on an amazing season and winning it as comeback player of the year.
Yes, sir.
Moving on, as you can hear through my absolutely miserable sick voice. MVP award, pretty boring. I think we both kind of had these picked. My guy did not win. Whatever. That's okay. This was tough, but not really at the same time, because me and you could both bang the drum for Shohei Ohtani and regularly do, for Shohei Ohtani to win MVP every single year that he plays. But Aaron Judge, historic season, ends up netting him AL MVP, and well deserved in my opinion.
Definitely well deserved. It was a really incredible year, but I think the voting should have been closer. Like you said, Judge won. We've gone on and on about how incredible his 62 homer, 11.4 F4 season was. He batted .311. He was just unstoppable all season long. But considering what Shohei Ohtani does and did this past year as a two-way player that we have never seen and may never see again, I think the voting should have been a lot closer. Ohtani was the unanimous MVP last year, even with Vladimir Guerrero Jr. having an incredible season. Ohtani was unanimous and then topped that season this year. He had a better year, in not only in terms of WAR, but if you just look across the board, maybe not in the hitting stats, but it was all very close, especially if you take into account the sort of new environment with the ball and the sticky stuff and that kind of thing. But just an incredible year from Ohtani, and he got 2 first place votes to Aaron Judge's 28. So Judge sort of blew him out of the water. It didn't really seem like too many people had a second thought. I'm somewhat disappointed, but I think it's easy to take solace in the fact that Ohtani will probably win the next 3 MVPs as long as he stays healthy. I don't think, like, it took one of the best seasons of all time from Aaron Judge to overtake him, and like that makes sense. It's very fair to give that to Judge. It was really one of the best seasons of all time. But I mean, you can consider Shohei Ohtani's year this year to be the best season of all time in some instances. So really incredible season. I will run through the rest of the voting. 3rd place was Yordan Alvarez. 4th was Jose Ramirez. 5th was Jose Altuve. 6th was Andres Jimenez. 7th was Julio Rodriguez. That's pretty crazy. He finished ahead of Mike Trout. Wow. In his rookie year. 9th was Xander Bogaerts. 10th was Justin Verlander somehow. 11th, Bo Bichette, who really turned it on in the second half. And then the rest of it was Adley Rutschman. He got MVP votes. Wow. Luis Arias, Rafael Devers, Kyle Tucker, Vlad Jr., Jose Abreu, Alek Manoah, Alex Bregman, Yandy Diaz. Yandy Diaz got a 9th place vote.
That's clutch.
I did not look through this before.
Shout out to Yandy.
That's crazy. Framber Valdez, Sean Murphy got a 10th place vote. That's definitely from a Bay Area voter for sure. And Dylan Cease also tied for last place in MVP voting. So yeah, definitely some guys I didn't expect to get votes there, but yeah, I mean, the top makes sense. The bottom is interesting. I didn't look at that before. Yeah, that's pretty funny.
Weird. Yeah. I think I'm like you, where you pretty much summed it up. So I'm not gonna bay for blood on it either. The voting should have been closer, but I understand why it wasn't. And Shohei Ohtani is an alien, so he'll win several more MVPs in his whole career. I just honestly think that a lot of this was due to a historic season from Judge, and like honestly, probably just a little bit of voter fatigue. And I think that's going to be something that ends up hurting Ohtani over his career, is going to be voter fatigue, because like it's obvious how talented he is and how valuable he is. Like if you're going to be like, oh, well, he's not ever going to be in that conversation again, that's stupid and naive. But at the same time, like you can look at Ohtani and it's like he'll win like 3 more, and he probably won't win any more after that, just because they'll be tired of voting for him, and that's going to suck. Mm-hmm. But moving on to the NL MVP, another one that I'm tired of talking about. I don't know about you. It's Paul Goldschmidt, and I don't think this voting ended up being all that close either. But Paul Goldschmidt, he was in the top 3 for a reason, and he obviously deserves to win the MVP. I still just wanted Manny Machado to win it. But Goldie, yeah, like, I mean, he had an amazing season.
Mm-hmm. The voting was a lot closer than the AL, but yeah,
It still
Goldschmidt
wasn't
sort
all
of
that close.
Yeah, he ran away with it. 22 first place votes to Machado, 7. Arenado also got a first place vote. So about what you would have expected. Really weird to see Machado have a 5th place vote as well. Goldschmidt only got first and second place votes. So that's pretty interesting. He was sort of the clear front runner there, but an incredible season from Goldschmidt. Here are his stats. He had 7.1 F4, batted 317 and hit 35 home runs. Really incredible season. Finally, the man got the award. He definitely had a couple deserving seasons in Arizona, but this is sort of shaping up to be a Hall of Fame career. We've talked about him all season long. We even discussed his Hall of Fame chances, so that's not something we'll continue to beat into the ground. But yeah, what an incredible season from Goldschmidt. Machado was very deserving in his own right, and I think if Goldschmidt, had slowed down just a couple weeks earlier, Machado might have stolen it. But yeah, it was definitely a very interesting season. Not as crazy of a class as it was in the American League, but I'll run through the rest of them. So like I said, Goldschmidt and Machado won 2. Nolan Arenado finished 3rd. 4th was Freddie Freeman. 5th was Mookie Betts. 6th was Austin Riley. 7th, JT Realmuto. 8th, Pete Alonso. 9th, Francisco Lindor. 10th, my boy, Sandy Alcantara. And then we got Trey Turner, Dansby Swanson, Michael Harris II. Wow. Julio Urias somehow got a 3rd place vote. A 3rd place vote?
What?
How? Oh, what? No idea.
That doesn't make any sense because
that doesn't make any sense.
Okay, that doesn't make any sense because didn't Sandy win Cy Young? Like
Sandy didn't even get a 3rd place vote.
Didn't he win the NL Cy
unanimously? Yes.
So how did
the people that vote for MVP don't vote for Cy Young?
Okay, that's stupid as hell.
Yeah, that is very weird. That guy needs to he needs to get his brain checked out, but or maybe she. But other than that, we got Jeff McNeil, we got the man Daniel Bard got a 9th place MVP vote somehow. Kyle Schwarber, Edwin Diaz, and Starling Marte. So Daniel Bard had the same amount of MVP votes as Edwin Diaz, and somehow Starling Marte got a 10th place vote. Definitely some weird ones towards the end here. Not what I would have expected on both the AL and NL side. Honestly, that's a more fun conversation, those guys who get those last few votes, than it is talking about the top guys that we've talked about all year.
Rockies legend, Daniel Bard.
For real.
That's so weird.
Very, very.
Another thing to throw in there for Paul Goldschmidt before we move on. He was also the recipient of the MLBPA's Heart and Hustle Award, which is given out to a player who best embodies the value, spirit, and tradition of the game. So Paul Goldschmidt, MVP winner, all around good guy, plays the game the right way. So congratulations to Goldie. Moving on, let's talk about, a baseball team, the Twins. Is there really, do we ever talk about the Twins other than like when they got Correa? But they did kind of go through a rebrand. I don't know if I would really call it a rebrand. They changed their logos, but not really. And then they changed their jerseys, but not really. What are your immediate thoughts?
My immediate thoughts were, I'm pretty sure I sent it in our chat, that I thought this was boring. It seems sort of like everything's going towards oh my gosh, minimalism. Thank you. No, I know how to say the word. My mouth sort of just
Jake had a brain fart,
ran over itself. Yeah, it's very minimalist, which seems to be the way that most sports teams in general are going towards, which is fine in some senses, but I don't know. I want to see like more or authentic, more unique things that really represent a city, really make people want to buy these jerseys. Like, I don't see this and be like, oh shoot, I want that hat, I want that jersey. I see this and I see like, oh, okay, this just looks like they're just all the jerseys in baseball and all sports are now melding together to all look sort of similar, and the only difference is the colors and the fonts, which is not something you're really keeping an eye out for. The new hat that they have, you can't really see it. It's like an M with a star above it.
It looks like the old Marlins logo.
Yeah, that's fair. The middle one.
I don't particularly care for the new away. It's like their road logo, which is weird that they have a road logo.
Uh-huh.
I like when teams just have the one thing. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you don't see the Yankees have a different hat. You don't see the Cubs have a different hat, or the
Mm-hmm.
Red Sox. Just leave the logo alone. And I'm like you. At first, I thought this was boring. And it is in a lot of ways, but it's grown on me more. I actually really like the aways with the pinstripes.
Yeah, I'm
Because,
glad they brought those back because I liked those
that's
growing
cool.
up.
Yeah, I did too, and that looks pretty sick. I don't really like the cream jerseys. I honestly think that's getting a little overdone. In some teams it works, and some it doesn't, and I'm not a big fan of it here. But I do really like the white home, and then the rest of it I hate. Like, I really like their regular away grays and their home whites, and everything else is just kind of like
the dark blue Minnesota is just so boring. Like, there's
It's so
nothing
boring.
that stands out there.
very boring. And even with the generic logo with the M, like,
Mhm.
what are you doing? It
Yeah.
honestly looks like a college jersey.
Yeah. So I don't think either of us are huge fans of this. I would have rather seen them do something more exciting, or maybe, I don't know, do sort of what like the Padres did when they just like they changed their whole colors, not changed their whole colors, but went back to their old colors. I thought that was cool to sort of go more retro. But yeah, so I think more teams should follow in the Padres' footsteps and go for more exciting stuff. But this seems to be the way most teams are going towards that path of minimalist. Everything looks similar, so I don't know, disappointing. We'll see how they look on the field. I think we're both on the same page though with the pinstripes. I definitely have some nostalgia for those.
Yeah, pinstripes are dope. And then, like, I don't know, they're mid. They're so mid.
Mhm.
But whatever, man. I don't know what else to say. So let's just move on. I'm tired of looking at them.
Okay, get those ugly jerseys off my screen.
They're not even ugly. It's like the worst parts. Like, if they're ugly, it's like at least you can talk about them. They're just boring.
Yeah.
So it's like,
I mean, like
care.
those Red Sox. The Red Sox actually have them here. The Red Sox.
Okay, so first off, those are awesome. Those are great.
These grew on you? I always didn't like them. I don't like the colors, but at least they like inspire conversation. At least they're unique and stuff. Like those.
Yeah, at least
Twins ones just look normal.
Right. It's like the Dodgers one. Like, nobody talked about
We
the
did.
Dodgers.
We talked about it at length. My least
did.
favorite jersey of all time.
We did, but also we're the only ones that did because it's so boring. Like, nobody else cares. It's just like, okay.
See, this is where
talk about that because that's dope.
Because I love this one now.
Yes.
I didn't know how I felt about it at first, but I really like this one.
If you're making new jerseys, be different. There's no point in like changing one thing and be like, hey guys, look at our new stuff. Like, nobody cares.
Yeah.
Baseball jerseys should be different. They shouldn't all look the same, because then there's no personality anymore.
Yeah.
And that's like, for me, that's the one thing like that honestly separates a lot of baseball like teams, because NBA jerseys are now at the point where they look exactly the same. NFL jerseys are like, also there's only but so much you can do with those, just because like, they all, other than the helmets, like the helmets are all different. Like baseball, like everything's different because you can kind of get away with a lot of you got a lot of
things
stuff
you can mess with.
Yeah. So then it's just like, when you make everything look the same, it's like, well, what's the point? If I want to buy a Cubs jersey, I want to buy a Cubs jersey that looks like a Cubs jersey. I don't want a Cubs jersey that could also look like, a Twins jersey. That's stupid. So moving on to the new Hall of Fame ballot. This one was real cool. So why don't you run down the new Hall of Fame guys, because there's a bunch of guys on there that played baseball at one point and are not going to get in the Hall of Fame.
Sure. I think there's 13 or 14, but here we go. We got Carlos Beltran, John Lackey, Jared Weaver, Jacoby Ellsbury, Matt Cain, Johnny Peralta, Jason Worth, J.J. Hardy, Mike Napoli, Bronson Arroyo, R.A. Dickey, Francisco Rodriguez, Andre Ethier, and Houston Street, a who's who of guys that both of us grew up watching in baseball, and it's a very weak new coming class, if I do have to say so myself.
Yeah. We talked about this at length as well with the 2023 Hall of Fame ballot and a bunch of the holdovers as well from last year. You still have Bobby Abreu, Mark Burley. You still have Todd Hilton, Torrey Hunter, Andrew Jones, Jeff Kent, and Andy Pettit. I almost said Andrew Pettit. Andy Pettit, Manny Ramirez, Alex Rodriguez, Scott Rowland, Jimmy Rollins, Gary Sheffield, Omar Vizquel, who will fall off because he's a bum, and Billy Wagner. So that ballot in itself is not very strong. And I think we talked about this as well, other than you saying Matt Cain first ballot because you are a Giants shill. I think the only one that even gets considered here is going to be Beltran.
Yeah, I think Beltran definitely has the best case. I have his stats right here, I think. His career WAR was 70.1, so he's definitely deserving on that front. He was a switch hitter that hit 435 home runs. He had an 837 OPS for his career. He was really great, and at his peak, he was really incredible for the Mets. He had some great postseason performances as well, so that'll boost his case. I think he was like a surefire Hall of Famer if he doesn't play for the 2017 Astros, because we all know what happened with the 2017 Astros and how they knocked off the Dodgers in the World Series, thank God, but also how they had the banging scheme and what an integral part Beltran had. And if anybody recalls, he was set to be the Mets manager when that came to light, and they suspended him, and the Mets, let him go before he even got to manage a single game. And so I don't know if his whole career is going to be tainted because of that one thing. This will be the first chance we have to see of, what kind of stain that whole story puts on a guy who has a Hall of Fame career. So we'll get to a sort of precursor for what it's like when Altuve and other guys from that team finally reach this point. But personally, I wouldn't hold that against him. Also, I don't think that it will be held against him, but it will be interesting to see, as we know that, the Hall of Fame voters literally just have no leeway for cheating. They just won't even let anybody who's sniffed steroids get in, even if you're the best player of all time. So that's pretty interesting. What are your thoughts? You think he gets in? You think
he'll get in.
Think they're going to hold him back?
I think he'll get in. It'll be interesting to see if it's first ballot. I don't think so, but I do think he'll eventually get in. He'll probably be like a 10-year guy.
You think 10 years? I think he's like more than he's an obvious Hall of Famer, but it's like, how much do they?
It depends on how much they want to punish him for that. I don't know if he might not be a 10-year guy, but I don't think he's going to get in first try. And I don't think he'll get in second or third try either. Typically after the third year window, that's kind of when it's going to drag. So it's you don't see a lot of guys get in like year 5, year 6. Mm-hmm. It's always like 1, 2, 3 or 8, 9, 10.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think it'll either be year 3 or like 9. So it's gonna be open for Beltran. Any other guys that you think you can craft an argument for on here?
Yes.
Who's your pick?
There's one other guy, and it's Francisco Rodriguez. I think he's the only other guy that has a case on here. I mean, I love a lot of the other guys, and a lot of them are remember some guys. I haven't thought about Johnny Peralta in years, but I really liked watching him play. And Jacoby Ellsbury was really great at his peak, but I think K-Rod actually has a chance. And if you look at the ballot on Baseball Reference, like if you just Google 2023 Hall of Fame ballot, it'll bring you to the ballot on Baseball Reference. And there is a stat they have on there called it's HOFM. So Hall of Fame M, which stands for the Bill James Hall of Fame Monitor. And it's similar to OPS plus, WRC plus, where 100 is average. And that's like average Hall of Fame. And K-Rod is at 124, which is 2 points below Carlos Beltran at 126. So that would mean he has a very, very similar case to be in the Hall of Fame that Beltran does. And if both of us think he's going to get in, then I think K-Rod has a really solid chance. And that's not my only argument. He also owns the single season record for most saves in a single season when he saved 62 games in 2008. He's a 4-time All-Star. He has some of the most saves of all time. I think he's top 10. I'm pretty sure about that. He's got 437. He's fourth. He's top 5. Yeah. So,
I'm pretty sure he's fourth.
I mean, we've seen how they treat relievers in the past. They don't seem to vote them in. I think Billy Wagner is still on the ballot, and he's well deserving of that too. But so far we've only seen like Mariano Rivera, Trevor Hoffman, Lee Smith, guys like Goose Gossage and Dennis Eckersley have got in as well. But not too many relievers in the Hall of Fame. But I think with Lee Smith getting in on the Veterans Committee, I think K-Rod really actually has a pretty solid chance of getting in because he had a pretty storied career. It's not what you would have expected from a guy that ended his career at 35 with a 7.82 ERA. But when you're a closer for that long and you have the most saves in a single season, I think you got a really solid chance at getting in.
Yeah. The thing with K-Rod is exactly going to be, for me, what we talked about last year with Joe Nathan. And it all comes down to Billy Wagner. Because I think, for me at least, of these two, if you're going to compare the two relievers that are here, because let's take Houston Street out of the equation because he doesn't have a chance. He'll fall off the ballot. I think K-Rod is closer to Joe Nathan and Billy Wagner, and Joe Nathan fell off the ballot. So I think it's going to depend on K-Rod staying on the ballot. I think he needs to get to the 5%. Obviously, he needs to get to the 5% to stay on the ballot in the first place, but it's like super imperative because I think Billy Wagner will eventually get in. And once Billy Wagner gets in, he's going to be the one you set the precedent after, because then all the relievers that are like great, but not like Mariano, Trevor Hoffman great, then they're going to have a chance, because you have to judge that position a lot differently than other positions. And that's what sucks about it. Because like you can be a great reliever for a long time, but unless you are all-time great, like at a closer, or as a closer, it doesn't matter. And K-Rod had like a really good peak as well. And like you said, his career ended at 35. He kind of fell off, which sucks for him, obviously, but it's kind of similar to Billy Wagner. Billy Wagner didn't have, the longest career, but he had a very dominant peak. So I think you have to answer the Billy Wagner question before you can get to K-Rod. I do think he deserves to be in, because I think Billy Wagner deserves to be in. Relievers need to be treated a lot differently than other positions because they just don't get as much of a chance to impact the game, which sucks. Like Joe Nathan shouldn't have fell off the ballot, just like K-Rod should stay on this ballot. Guys like Houston Street, who were, Hall of Good. I wouldn't even call them like really Hall of Great. Like, I don't know. Hall of Very Good for like a stretch.
No, I was just saying that as great.
Like Hall of Very
I'm
Good.
not saying
like
there should be 3 determinations.
Yeah, like it just sucks. Relievers need to be treated differently, and that it sucks because you see the new age of voters that are younger voters treating it the way it should be treated, and older voters who are still like old chuds who it's like, oh, well, they didn't have a cajillion saves and they didn't pitch for 23 years. Like, they don't get a chance, and that sucks. So once we answer the Billy Wagner question, once he gets in like he rightfully deserves, please, for the love of God, put K-Rod in. So I hope he can get to 5% and stay on the ballot. Everyone else on this list, honestly, would be lucky to get 5%. Like,
yes, definitely. I don't really see anybody staying on. Actually, anybody else? Nobody else even has 300 home runs or anything special. I
think Kane will stay on. I don't know.
There's a shot. I don't know. He doesn't even have 30 WAR. I love Matt Cain. I think he was great at his peak, and I loved him as a player, but I don't see it. I don't see him as a Hall of Famer. So I don't know. There's definitely a shot, but I don't know. 5% is sort of I don't know. I don't see it. There's really nobody. Nobody even has a 50 Hall of Fame score by Bill James, which basically everybody, every one of the holdovers has. The 2 guys that were at 5% last year or the past 2 years, Burley and Hunter, they were both barely above 50, and the only other person above 50 besides K-Rod and Beltran was Houston Street, and he's at 57. So I don't think anybody else stays on.
I would like to see an argument crafted for R.A. Dickey, because I think you can almost make one. And I know that sounds like a meme.
It does.
It
very much sounds like a meme.
Well, it kind of is, but you also can look at him as like, instead of just as R.A. Dickey, you can kind of look at him in a trailblazer role, because he's the first Cy Young knuckleballer. Like, and he's basically the last great knuckleballer. And he didn't have the longevity like Necro, obviously, because Necro pitched forever is what it felt like.
He did.
But Dickey, I mean, I think there's a chance he could get 5%. I don't think he'll get it, but like he could maybe get 5% just because his story's cool. And a lot of the old baseball heads, it's like, okay, let's vote on guys that have good stories, accolades. You want to Cy Young, and then maybe you look at him and you're like, oh, it's a little bit of fun. Let me take my vote despite A-Rod and give it to R.A. Dickey. I don't know.
To be honest, I don't think any of the other guys even get one vote.
I wouldn't vote for like Lackey or Peralta.
I don't think any of them get a single it's a Hall of Fame vote. They have to be the top 10 choices among the 28 guys on the ballot. And I would not choose any of them.
Ethier barely has 20 WAR. What does Arroyo have? Because I'm surprised he even got on the ballot.
Arroyo has 23.4 B WAR.
That's really good.
Yeah. So yeah,
Jason Worth ought to be locked up. Like,
yeah, I don't see it.
Yeah, I don't know. I think there will be one or two that will get votes, and I think there's going to be a surprise that one of these weird random guys is going to get 5%.
Yeah. All right.
But
well,
probably.
who do you think gets in this year?
This year?
Yeah.
Ooh.
It might be one guy. It might be zero.
What was A-Rod's number last year?
A-Rod had 34% last year.
Nobody. Maybe Roland.
Yeah, my guess is Roland, and only Roland is the only one who gets in. I think nobody else is close enough right now. I think there's a shot that maybe somebody jumps up randomly. I think there's a shot Beltran makes it also on his first year, but I think Roland is the only one that gets in this year. I think the next step is to choose your 10 guys. Who would you put on your ballot?
From this ballot, the 10 guys that I would pick would be Alex Rodriguez. I would pick Billy Wagner, Scott Rowland, K-Rod, Todd Helton, Bobby Abreu, Andrew Jones, Jeff Kent. So it's 8, then I get 2 more. I would pick honestly don't know. I might only vote for 8. See, I don't want to vote for Manny because Manny had several different steroids. Several different steroids things. Same thing for Pettit. Did I already say Burley?
I don't remember.
Say Burley.
We'll say him again.
Carlos Beltran.
Sure. All right. Solid. I really think that's like the only choice right now.
Most of these guys should fall off. Vizquel was already having to have an argument crafted for him, and he turned out to be a piece of shit. So Omar Vizquel should not be in. Gary Sheffield, I think you could very easily craft an argument for, but he's a steroid guy. Jimmy Rollins didn't have a long enough peak. Jared Weaver, Jason Worth, Houston Street, Peralta, Napoli, Lackey, Kane, Dickey, Ellsbury, Ethier, Hardy, and Arroyo are all going to fall off. Torrey Hunter, I don't know. Torrey Hunter, I'd have to hear a good argument for.
Yeah. All right, I'll give you mine. I would have to run back the tape to guarantee this, but I'm pretty sure ours are going to be exactly the same. I would have Roland, Helton, Wagner, Andrew Jones, A-Rod, Jeff Kent, I guess.
I would vote for Kent. I mean, positional WAR, he's one of the greatest second baseman hitters of all time.
I would go Abreu, Beltran, K-Rod. And then I guess with the last one, it's like Gary or Burley, Gary Sheffield or Burley. I think if I were voting, I would give it to Burley to keep him on the ballot.
I think Burley's got to have a chance, just because Foolish Baseball made the video then.
Yeah, the GOAT. Yeah. Well, I don't know. Do you have any other thoughts about the Hall of Fame? I feel like we'll have a lot of times to think about it. It's going to be a few months until we actually get any news on this. So I figured now's a good time. Now that everybody's thinking about it, give our thoughts about it and see what happens in a few months.
No, I think that's good. Who's on the 2024 ballot? Who's eligible for the 2024 ballot?
Let's see. 24. We've got Adrian Beltre, Joe Mauer,
Ooh, that's already
Chase
strong.
Utley, David Wright, Big Sexy, Matt Holliday, Adrian Gonzalez, Jose Bautista, Jose Reyes, Victor Martinez, James Shields. Wow. Brandon Phillips, Denard Span, Chase Headley, Giovanni Gallardo, Doug Fister. Are they just listing every person? Brad Ziegler, Ryan Madsen, Phil Hughes,
Joaquin
Pokemon card
Benoit.
goat, Brandon Morrow, Chris Tillman, Jim Johnson, Santiago Casilla. Yeah. I think it's a good addition to see. I like the chances for Mauer and Beltre. I think Beltre is a clear first ballot. That'll be a cool one. But Mauer is going to have a very, very interesting case. I think Chase Utley definitely has a case as well. I don't think anybody else. Matt Holliday's
I'd like
got
to
a
see
shot.
Agon get in.
Yeah, I don't see that happening, but he's got a shot.
I'd like to see players
have a.
I have a weird take about the Hall of Fame and the current iteration of it. I would like to see players that are like genuinely great from a cultural perspective get in, because Adrian Gonzalez is pretty much considered to be one of, if not the best Mexican baseball players of all time.
Fair enough.
So I would like to see Adrian Gonzalez to get in. I liked him a lot growing up, so I obviously have a little bit of bias. Beltre will get in first ballot. Mauer has an absolute surefire chance because he's a great catcher. His peak wasn't super, super long. Who else from this? I love Chase Utley, so I would also like for him to get in, but I doubt he will.
Mm-hmm.
David Wright didn't have the longevity. I love Chase Utley. David Wright didn't have the longevity. He's too injured. If they want to do also from I've seen arguments made about how the Hall of Fame works, and in my opinion, it's kind of a chud way to think, but in some ways it makes sense. If you can adequately tell the story of baseball in a specific generation of it or a specific era without the player, then you probably can not put them in the Hall of Fame. And for that reason, I think that there would be some sort of weird consideration for Jose Bautista, because he was one of the most recognizable faces in the game of baseball during the era he played in.
That flip heard around the world.
Yeah, that's one of the coldest, sickest baseball moments of all time. It's instantly recognizable. He wasn't a super great player, or for a long amount of time, but he's got a chance.
Yeah.
Next year, I think next year is going to be interesting too, because I want to say that's the last year Gary Sheffield's on the ballot.
Yeah, I think this is his 9th year. This is the last year for Jeff Kent, by the way.
Oh, is it? Ooh,
yeah.
I hope he gets in. I think Kent deserves to be in.
Yeah.
I think he was also kind of a jerk, so.
Yeah, who cares? Never met him.
Well, he was a jerk to media at several points, which is what
I thought you were about to say. He was a jerk to me.
He was a jerk to me. One time he saw me and he kicked sand in my face and then he punched me in the chest. I was only 8 years old.
One time I saw him out in the normal life and I said, "Hey, Jeff Kent," and he said, "I hate Jewish people." So I took that really personally as a Jewish person. I was just kidding. I hope that doesn't get out there. It's like we see an article tomorrow. Apparently, Jeff Kent was anti-Semitic.
Jeff Kent, anti-Semitic.
Yeah, a big fan of Kanye West.
Big fan of Kanye West.
Yeah.
I was gonna say earlier, fellow Jewish man Paul Goldschmidt wins MVP, but he's not
Jewish.
No,
I wouldn't think so. That's just because he's got gold in his name, bruv.
He's got Goldschmidt, man.
I don't know if Schmidt is.
Have you not seen
Jewish.
Have you not seen the Foolish Bailey meme where he talked about him and Paul Goldschmidt have the same thing in common, that they're both Gentiles, but people keep thinking they're Jewish?
Yes, I did see that, and I did think that Bailey was Jewish because people with "man" at the end of their name, Bailey Freeman is a man at the end of the name is usually a Jewish thing. But yeah, well, he's a funny guy.
Absolutely. Let's move on to some transactions and talk about current baseball instead of old people baseball.
Yeah.
couple interesting trades here to talk about. The Mariners. This was one we talked about at length in the group chat. This was the Mariners trading Kyle Lewis. Didn't he win a Rookie of the Year?
He did. 2020 AL Rookie of the Year award winner.
2020 AL Rookie of the Year. Kyle Lewis to the Diamondbacks for Cooper Hummel. I think that's how it's pronounced.
Yep.
There's a soccer player with a similar last name. What the fuck was this?
Whoa.
Like, I've already cussed like 5 times on in this specific
Somebody's
one.
watching though.
Oh no.
It was really interesting. There's a lot of things that make this confusing. I think first off, it's confusing from the Mariners because why would you trade a guy with so much potential? It makes sense though. He's really struggled with injuries for the entirety of his career, even throughout his minor league career. If he gets injured again, if he plays another season of subpar baseball, he's probably got zero trade. You couldn't trade him for anybody. That's like Lewis Brinson style where he just gets released. He still has that glow a little bit from that 2020 season, but he really hasn't shown anything. They've got enough outfielders out there. I think it makes sense somewhat to get a guy like Hummel who can play catcher and outfield. He's sort of the beta version of Dalton Varsho in some ways, and that he's like an athletic catcher that can do multiple things. But yeah, Hummel's not a super exciting guy. He was a 27-year-old rookie this past year. He hit 3 home runs, stole 4 bases, batted 176 with a 65 WRC plus across 200 plate appearances. So nothing super exciting. Maybe they see something in him. He was really good in the minors, to be honest. Even in 2021, he had a 155 WRC plus with the Brewers for half a season, and then 138 this past year in AAA with the Diamondbacks, batting 310. So he's definitely got some contact there, but not super confident. Maybe they see something there. The goofiest part for me is from the Diamondback side. They have so many outfielders. They are the last team that needs outfielders. They have Alec Thomas. They have Corbin Carroll. They have Jake McCarthy. They have Pavin Smith. They have Dalton Varsho, the aforementioned Dalton Varsho. They have Seth Beer even plays some outfield. They have so many outfielders, and now they have Kyle Lewis. I don't see where he fits in. Kyle Lewis would fit on a team like, I don't know, the Pirates or some team that doesn't have outfielders, the Royals maybe, where they need a guy who has some potential and has a shot at like doing something with the playing time, but I don't see where the playing time comes from for Lewis. And I don't think they're going to keep him as a DH, but like this is a guy that can play center field. So it's really confusing for me, more so from the Diamondback side, why they would do that. I mean, they didn't give up much, but why would they add another outfielder?
Do you think that they maybe try to flip some of their young outfield talent for pitching because they really desperately need pitching outside of Gallen?
I don't know. I mean, they're not going to be competing this year,
They've
so
gotta be
that's
doing
also
something.
a confusing part. They do have to be doing something, or else this makes no sense, because I'm pulling up just to make sure that I didn't miss any of their outfielders, because they literally have that many. Josh Rojas can play outfield as well. They've been using him in the infield. Ketel Marte got moved into the infield from the outfield. They have so many guys, and they even have like minor leaguers that could be really good. Christian Robinson, sorry. He had a lot of potential before this past year, and even some other guys. They've had minor leaguers up all year that were out playing in the outfield. Like, I don't know, it doesn't make sense. They have a plethora of options, and they chose to get a guy who's like needs just a shot to play on a team, and I just don't know where that happens. So it's sort of weird from both ends.
Yeah, some weird stuff from the Mariners side as well. So Hummel is a super utility guy. He plays some corner outfield and he catches, which already is weird. But Jerry DiPoto, front office executive of the Seattle Mariners, said that like the analytical group within the Mariners really, really liked Hummel for a long time. And I don't know why, because I mean, he's about to turn 28 this upcoming season. It'll be his age 28 season. The catching metrics are very limited, but they said they're optimistic, which I don't know what that means. If they're going to play
optimistic about what?
Yeah, I don't know what that means at all.
I'm optimistic about Thanksgiving. I think it's gonna be a great time. They're like, oh, we're talking about baseball, Jerry.
Yeah, right. Makes no sense. So
weird one.
But they look at the outfield situation as well with the Mariners now. if they're expecting him to be a super utility guy, they're going to have J-Rod playing center, Teoscar Hernandez, Jesse Winker. Now they have Cooper Hummel, and they're going to have to fit Kellenic in there somewhere. Like
Sam Haggerty, Taylor Trammell. They got a lot of outfielders. It makes sense for them to give one up.
But it's a weird trade all around. And it is a shame to see Kyle Lewis basically have this colossal downfall. He's been pretty much broken since 2020. It hasn't really been able to get back on track. So hopefully he can figure it out in Arizona and maybe end up being a big trade chip for them or a long-term starter. So who knows? Next trade to talk about is the Marlins trading Elieser Hernandez and Jeff Brigham to the Mets in exchange for Franklin Sanchez and a player to be named later or several dollar dues. So what kind of trade is this?
This is a depth trade. Trade. I think the Mets definitely add to the rotation. Right now, they've got Scherzer, Carrasco, Tyler McGill, David Peterson, and Hernandez locked in there. So I think they like Hernandez more as a 6 or 7 starter. This is a guy that has shown potential. He's got a really good slider, but he not only is unable to stay healthy, but he also just hasn't been super incredible. I lost your video, Davis. I don't know if that's just on my end. He had his best season in 2020 with a 3.16 ERA in 25 innings, but other than that, he's never had an ERA below 4, and the only time he's had an ERA below 5 was in 2021, and that was for 50 innings. So he's got some potential. I think he's more of a depth guy that can throw some innings, and Brigham, I don't think is anything special. He's going to be 31. He's only thrown 79 innings in the majors for the Miami Marlins over the last 4 years, and last year was his best year, 3.38 ERA across 24 innings. But
He's still there? I lost him. Okay, so a few notes to talk about on this trade that I've just found. Elieser Hernandez, who is the major part of this trade, he talked about Jeff Brigham. Jeff Brigham is going to be a kind of an underrated part of their bullpen. He actually didn't put up an absolutely like world-shattering numbers last season with the Marlins, but their bullpen themselves weren't that great. Jeff Brigham is 31. Last season, he put up a 3.38 ERA, the 3.65 FIP, and actually graded out with his slider, which he throws a large majority of the time. It's his put-away pitch. Ended up getting right around, I'll have to look it up on Baseball Savant, but it ranked 17th in all of baseball by Stuff Plus. So he was really, really good in that bullpen with that filthy slider that just keeps him valuable into his later years in his career. Get back in?
Yeah, I don't know what happened. He
so
disappeared, and then I just lost my Wi-Fi.
Whatever. Okay, so I was actually talking about while you were gone. Elieser Hernandez, cool. Going to be locked in. Maybe throw some innings out of that bullpen. You talked about Jeff Brigham not really being a big part of this trade. He was actually a decent reliever in very limited time with Miami last year. Had a let's look it up. I just said it. He had 3.38 ERA and 3.65 FIP. He actually graded out 17th best slider by Stuff Plus in all of baseball.
That part, yeah.
So I think he could end up being pretty good. And the Mets bullpen, garbage outside of Edwin Diaz. So they honestly, any arm is probably better than what they had. I think this is a decent trade. Not really giving up much, and the Mets are obviously in a window now where they need to win, or they're pretty much done for.
Definitely more of a depth play, though. And then Marlins got, like you said, Franklin Sanchez in return. He had a 3.18 ERA in 5 innings at high A last year, and then also at A ball, he had a 3.90 ERA across 30 innings. He'll be 22. He is a right-handed pitcher who is 6'6" and still 22. And was drafted internationally. So it'll be interesting to see what he can do. Don't know anything at all about him. But yeah, I don't know. The Marlins have a very good pitching development. So you never know what happens there.
Oh yeah. Hopefully we'll finally see the myth that was Sixto Sanchez again this upcoming year.
Oh yeah.
Nick Pollock from Pitcher List. You know that
My
guy.
boy, my boss.
No, he actually had a little tweet that was a profile on Eliezer Hernandez. Excellent slider. He said, excellent slider, questionable heater, developing changeup. And these slider numbers are wonderful with an 18.7% swinging strike rate, 13.4% called strike, 32.2% called strikes plus whiffs, and 70.9 STR percent. That really means.
Strike percent.
Strike percent. Excellent. And 65.6 plus percent. So I don't know what he ends up being. There's honestly a chance that he could just be like long relief out of the pen.
Yeah, swingman.
Every team needs starter. One of those.
Yeah.
Cool move. Baseball trade. You forgot about this one. We talked about this yesterday. But the Minnesota Twins with their new jerseys spent all their money on new jerseys, needed to trade away some big league talent. So they traded Gio Urshela to the Angels in exchange for Alejandro Hidalgo. Angels, with their offseason transactions so far, which we'll talk about later, honestly look like they're winning the offseason at the moment in time.
Not a good sign. Not a good sign.
They'll be terrible. Yeah. Talk about this move.
I don't know where Urshela plays. I don't know what this means for Anthony Rendon, who is the incumbent at third base for the Angels. I doubt they use Urshela at shortstop. He has the ability to do so. He played 2 games there last year. He came up as a shortstop third baseman, so he's got the ability to play shortstop. Maybe not too great, but I'm pretty sure with him, it's what you see is what you get. Like, he's just a guy that's going to bat like 270 to 290 and hit like 15 home runs or so. He's got the ability to play pretty much every day too. He's not somebody that's going to blow your socks off. He's going to be a slightly above league average right-handed hitter who's got a pretty solid glove in the field. And that's, what to expect from him. And the return that the Twins got is Hidalgo, who will be 20 years old next year. Last year at A-ball with the Angels, he had a 4.62 ERA across 39 innings. He is 6'1" and a right-handed pitcher. So that'll be one that we won't see for a while. So I don't know, shot in the dark there, but Gio Urshela, just like very solid guy. So maybe that's just what they wanted, somebody that they can count on all year long.
High floor utility infielder.
Exactly. That's
going to be good. Hidalgo's kind of a lottery ticket. He was an international signing in 2019. And the Angels don't really have those guys that actually pan out. So actually getting one and trading them for something is good. Hidalgo's numbers didn't look super good, but he did strike out 89 batters across 66 innings in his 2 minor league seasons so far. So maybe he could end up being good, but this, like you said, is not going to be one we see for a while.
No.
On to some notable non-tenders. A lot of big-ish names here. Obviously, the biggest one here is Cody Bellinger.
I think a lot of people saw that one coming.
Yeah, I think everyone kind of saw the writing on the wall, but still it's weird to see that this crazy decline from Cody Bellinger going from MVP to now unemployed.
Yeah, a Rookie of the Year in 2017, MVP in 2019, and that was the peak. It was all downhill from there. He had a 161 WRC plus and 47 dingers while batting 305 in that 2019 season, and since then it's been downhill. Last year in 22, he had an 83 WRC plus with 19 home runs and 14 steals, but he batted only 210 and had 1.7 WAR. He's actually a really good fielder, which is not something you really think of when you think of Bellinger, who came up as a first base prospect. Yeah, he came up as a first base prospect. So like, you don't really think of him as a guy that's going to be playing center field, but he has a really good glove. He's a great fielder out there. And I think if he may just need a change of scenery to like change things up, switch things up, or maybe he just needs a team with like a good hitting coach or something. To be honest, as much as this might be hard for me, I would love to see him go to the Giants. They could use a star outfielder. I'm sure they'd be able to figure things out for him. Maybe he just needs to stop smoking all the time. Guy looks high every single day. But if there's anybody on the free agent market that's going to come at a discount and has loads of potential, it's Cody Bellinger. He might have the most potential out there right now for a guy that you're not going to have to pay hundreds of $1 million for, but he only has the 1 year of eligibility. So you'll be paying like, I don't know, $15 million for a guy like this for 1 year, and it'll be really interesting if a team maybe tries to give him a big contract, but I'm sure he's going to want like that bounce back deal because he was an MVP at some point. He will be only 27.
Right. Names immediately for teams that fit this and stick out to me. Number one, and I've joked about it all the time about him going with the Cubs, but I honestly think it is a slam dunk made in heaven move for the Philadelphia Phillies. Brandon Marsh.
You don't think they have too many outfielders?
No, not any. Look, he is a strict upgrade over Brandon Marsh in center at everything. He'll be a better hitter, and if Kevin Long honestly can fix him,
that's what I was thinking.
You add another 40 home run hitter to that stupid outfield. I think that's crazy. I think he could end up in Toronto. I think he could end up in San Fran as well. Toronto really desperately need a left-handed bat, so I think Bellinger could fit that role, and because I think he's probably a better fielder than Springer at this point. You put Springer in left, or just let him DH. I'm not sure where else. I think Giants, Toronto.
He's gonna go to like the Braves and just ruin everyone's lives.
Probably.
Because they could fit him. Because they don't really need Ozuna. I mean, everybody hates that guy.
Ozuna?
And Contreras is the DH, so you move Ozuna to DH anyway. Like, there's room out there for him, and that would just be awful for everyone.
Yeah. Most teams will be interested in him.
Definitely. I think Miami might be a good spot for him. They really don't have too much offense, and that could really help out there. But yeah, like you said, and like
Colorado,
I said, he's got
just get
tons of
all the
potential.
time.
Yeah. I did I send you that tweet?
Yeah.
What did it say?
Oh, let me find it.
Yeah, we're both finding it. But yeah, I think he's a fit with every single team because he's got that MVP potential. He's still really young, and he may just need a change of scenery. And even if he doesn't have the offense back, he will still be a great fielder nonetheless. So it's like he's gonna provide value no matter what. Yeah, I found it. It was Vlad Sedler at RotoGut tweeted, "Imagine fading this," and it was Cody Bellinger in a Rockies jersey. And then Paul Sporer, my guy, said, "I cannot even imagine how faded he'd be if that happened."
Yeah. That's just the best. So Cody Bellinger, he's like the biggest name from these non-tenders. A couple more guys that are interesting are Alex Reyes. He was a former top prospect, wasn't he, for the Cardinals?
Huge starting pitching prospect. 2021, he had a great year out of the bullpen, especially in the first half. He finished that year with 29 saves and a 3.24 ERA, but this is a guy that has never, ever, ever been able to stay healthy throughout his career. So it's really a coin flip on that front if you can keep him healthy, but he's got all of the potential in the world, just some amazing stuff out of the bullpen.
Yeah. Could end up being a long relief kind of swingman role. Maybe you can actually use him and stretch him back out to a starter if he can actually stay healthy for once in his life. That would be good. The Washington Nationals did not tender Luke Voit a contract.
That's stupid.
Yeah, I didn't really get that one. But also it's the Nationals, so
traded Juan Soto for what? So very, very goofy.
Magic Beans and Luke Voit that you don't have anymore.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, Voit, we all know, has some of the biggest power in the world. This is another guy that really, really struggles to stay healthy all the time. He actually played the most games of his career last year, 135, but he had a 102 WRC plus, which is the lowest of his career in a season with more than 65 plate appearances, 65 games. That would be 150 plate appearances. Obviously tons of power, doesn't really provide anything else, and has a really strong injury bug, but I think he could be a good DH for whatever team grabs him on the cheap.
Oh yeah. I do too. He'll probably be one that's going to be signed by a contender. Another guy that at first I was surprised to see him go, and then I looked at his numbers from last year, and Jeimer Candelario, who in 2021, so I'm living in the past. In 2021, he had a really good season. Looked like he's finally, breaking out, going to become a big piece of the Tigers rebuild. And then next year, all falls apart for him, and now he's going to be looking for a new employer.
Yeah, he was really good in 2020 as well. That was sort of the
Yeah.
start of the breakout. He had a 140 WRC plus that year, and then 2021 he sort of made it look real. He had 42 doubles, which was I think tied for the league lead in the AL, and that came with a 120 WRC plus and nearly 4 F4. So he had a really solid season. And this past year, his average dropped like nearly 60 points, and he had a 40-point drop in WRC plus. He was worth negative F4, just not a great season. And this is a guy that, as a corner infielder, sort of really relies on his glove, but he is a switch hitter, which is always interesting. So maybe he pulls the Cedric Mullins. Maybe he just finds somewhere else to play, since that ballpark in Detroit isn't too great and that offense was just awful. So maybe a change of scenery helps out there. But this is a guy who's had potential. Yeah, you probably remember him as a Cubs prospect, having a lot of potential before he was traded.
Yeah, he got traded away for Justin Wilson and Alex Avila.
Wow. Well, look at that memory.
Yeah. Both of those guys are bad at baseball too. Yeah. So this one was kind of surprising. I would want to say it feels a little better now that, like, it's okay. He's kind of falling apart. It's like, well, he didn't super lose the trade, but whatever. Hopefully he'll figure it out with another team. Maybe the Guardians will keep him in the division and add to their plethora of switch hitters on their team. And he can be, a fourth infield or something. Who knows? Another big name that got non-tendered was the New York Mets non-tendering Dominic Smith, who kind of just fell apart last year. He was not good. He posted a 67 WRC plus, negative F4. Also posted negative F4 in 2021. This is a guy that had a lot of promise in 2020 in the shortened season, and it looked like they really need to carve out a spot for him in the lineup somewhere. And he's just been nothing since then. He just hasn't figured it out.
Yeah, it seemed like he was finally breaking out in 2020 in full, where he had a 166 WRC plus and he carried my fantasy team. But since then, he's really done nothing. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's a swing change or if it's just like a mental thing. But this does seem to be like a guy that has some potential, but it just really hasn't been there for extended periods of time. So it'll be interesting to see what happens, where he lands. But yeah, I wouldn't place too much faith in him, because I don't know what the real Dom Smith is, if he's that dominant guy from 2020 or if he's the bench bat that he has been the rest of his career.
Yeah. A name that I was honestly surprised to have seen be let go is Brian Anderson of the Miami Marlins. This is a guy that honestly kind of looked like he might end up looking like the face of their team for a bit, honestly, before Sandy Alcantara showed that, he's the best pitcher in the world. Brian Anderson has always been a guy that can basically play every single infield position, play corner outfield. He has a really good glove. He's more of a contact hitting kind of player. 20 home runs, obviously, in the 2019 season, which was the juice ball year. But I mean, he's got good bat to ball skills for the most part. Last year was the worst season of his career by WRC plus, and he posted at 90, which Marlins Park, which is a notorious pitcher's park, isn't that bad. Like, I know it's park adjusted, but still, like, I was surprised by this, because it's not like the Marlins are just really dying to blood in some hitting prospects, because they just don't have them either.
Yeah. I'm not sure what type of team is going to be looking for him. This does sort of seem like a guy that ends up with the Dodgers as like a replacement for Justin Turner, and then the Dodgers turn him into like a massive power hitting guy that just plays all over, so like a la Chris Taylor or something. So I really see that happening. If that happens, I'm going to feel really smart. But he's
really bad.
He looked like like you said, like he was an up and coming guy. 2018, 2019, he had that breakout season, and then 2019 he added some power as well. It seemed like he was just going to be like just like a really solid player, He doesn't really stand out anywhere, but he's just really solid. He plays every day. He can show some power, show some contact. And then the last couple of years, I mean, even 2020, he was good, but 2021, 2022, I think he's been beset by injuries the last couple of years. He's going into his last year of arbitration. He's going to be 30. Sort of makes sense from the Marlins perspective, but I think he's still got something left in him. And I think he still could probably have a really good second half of his career.
Oh yeah. I really do think he screams Dodgers. He screams one of the big teams picking him up, and he'll be a utility guy. and then he'll just pop off and either have super hot month or just he'll go back to being very rock solid at everything. Hopefully not like a 30 home run hitter with the Dodgers. That would be kind of annoying.
Yeah, it would be disappointing.
Yes. Another name, Aristides Aquino. It feels like at one point this guy was like destined to be the league's next great power hitter.
Next, Giancarlo.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That crazy swing where he's like super open. And he completely fell off the face of the planet. And now he's been non-tendered at the age of 28 by the Cincinnati Reds. And if you're getting non-tendered by the Reds, who are garbage, I don't know what's really going on there.
Yeah, and he just strikes out way too much. We didn't see that in his short sample in 2019 where he did one of those Reese Hoskins impressions, the Trevor Story like debut, and just hit a million home runs, and everybody's like, this guy might be the best hitter of all time. Yeah, he hit 19 home runs that year with a 117 WRC plus in his debut, but he struck out only around 27% of the time. The last couple of years, he's been up over 36%, which that's a 10% difference. Yeah, so it's way too many strikeouts. He's not patient enough. He's got all the power in the world. His max exit velo is pretty crazy, 113. He hit 118 in 2019. That was with the juice ball. But still, this is a guy with tons of power. He's a big guy. He's 6'4", 220. Like I said, lots of power, not a lot of contact. He's actually pretty fast too, so he's not a terrible fielder. He just strikes out way too much, so he probably needs some sort of change in approach or change in batting stance or whatever. I don't know what'll do it, but I love the power potential there. I think he's a really fun player too. But yeah, I mean, if he continues to strike out even over 30% of the time, it's just not going to work.
Yeah, he's a guy from this list that screams minor league deal. I think he'll get a minor league deal with one of the bigger teams, probably or one of the teams that has an eye to contend. And I think it'll probably be like an AL East team, either the Rays or the Red Sox, probably. If I had to pick, I think it'd be the Rays. I think he'd just fit on the Rays.
Yeah, they could figure it out.
Yeah, either that or he'll turn into Yandy and he'll just hit line drives.
Ground balls, you mean?
Well, yeah. Hard ground balls. He got an MVP vote.
Yeah,
you can remember that, Jake.
He did. Yeah, sorry for besmirching you, Yandy.
So, speaking of the Rays, they DFA'd MLB The Show Battle Royale legend Ryan Yarbrough, which my Fangraphs is not loading, so I can't tell you much about him right now.
Yeah, he's pretty meh. He had that a couple good years. He's sort of been a guy that I've liked in fantasy because he's like the bulk guy a lot, which is good for leagues where you have your game started limited. But other than that, he's not anything super special. He can eat some innings. He had a 5.11 ERA in 2021 and a 4.50 this last year. And obviously the Rays are like, he's 31. He's got 2 more years of control, and we are not going to pay him like $6 million to be very mediocre. I sort of put him on this list because he was one of the more known names, but I don't think he's really anything special at all.
Right. He'll probably
like if the Rays can't get him from a 4.50 ERA, I don't know if any other team is going to make him that much better.
Right. Maybe the Giants.
Hopefully.
I'd figure him out. Podcast favorite. I talk about this guy all the time. Ramel Tapia. No surprise he was DFA'd. He was absolutely awful.
And what'd you expect? He was leaving course.
Shut up.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's one of my friends. Shout out Tristan. It's one of his favorite players because he was going to school in Colorado. Would always sit in the left field bleachers right behind Rymel, and Rymel's got sick hair and loves the fans out there. So he's a pretty mediocre player, also. But I think a lot of people know of him, so I thought maybe put him in there. But yeah, this is going to be like a 6th outfielder type guy.
Yeah, minor league deal. He'll get somewhere. And then this one hurts really.
I put this on here for you.
This one really hurts from a Cubs fan perspective. Former Cubs #1 prospect Braylon Marquez was not tendered to contract by the club. And this one was honestly like really surprising. You know, he is insanely young. He's 23. He was one of the top pitching prospects in baseball at one point. He's a left-handed pitcher, threw well over 100, and ended up just getting hurt. And never really bouncing back. He's 23 now. He'll eventually turn into Billy Wagner on a team that is not the Chicago Cubs, probably like the Rays or the Giants. They'll turn into Billy Wagner because they'll figure it out. But yeah, this is a cautionary tale on why prospects should be treated like prospects and not like sure things.
Yeah, I think they really did run him into the ground in the minors, to be honest.
Yeah, I think so too. They ran him into the ground in the minors. He got hurt several times. They failed to call him up to the big league in the short season. They didn't really call him up and give him enough time in the big leagues. Eventually gets hurt. Now he's not really the same. And this is why you need to treat prospects like prospects. They're not sure things. And it's
especially pitching prospects,
because he went from flame-throwing starting pitching prospect to, okay, this guy might not have it as a starter. Let's put him in the pen. And then they ran him to the ground in the pen, and now he's gone. It sucks.
Yeah. A couple other non-tenders that were somewhat notable but aren't worth discussing. Touki Toussaint by the Angels. Josh James, remember him from the Astros. Bradley Zimmer, I guess, is someone to mention. I thought Jackson Stevens was pretty interesting with the Braves. Yandel Gustav, he throws pretty hard. Rafael Ortega had a breakout in 2021. Reyes Maranta is actually a pretty solid reliever. Edwin Rios of the Dodgers seems to have a lot of power potential as well. The Giants DFA'd like 13 guys. None of them super interesting, but Yarlin Garcia has been a very solid reliever the past couple of years. Anthony Gose, who, outfielder turned relief pitcher, throws 100 miles per hour from the left side. Other than that, nobody too notable. Eric Fetty can throw some innings. Jorge Alfaro is an interesting catcher. Franchi Cordero has an interesting power speed combo. Jeff Hoffman was a solid reliever for the Reds. Garrett Hampson, a lot of speed for the Rockies, just cannot hit the ball. And other than that, Adam Engel is a very good fielder for the White Sox.
In case you also want to hear some more Cubs stuff that's super annoying, Jake. They also non-tendered Alexander Vizcaíno. In case that name sounds remotely familiar to you, he was one of the big pieces that they got back for Anthony Rizzo trading him to the Yankees. They non-tendered him. Yep.
Great.
Would you like to know why?
Maybe they're racist.
He never reported. He actually never reported to spring training and then never really did anything in the minors. So he just refused to play for them. So they're like, all right, bro, get out of here.
Ooh. The cat trying to break into my room right now. Cool.
Yeah, hurt my feelings. Not happy about it.
More
booze.
He said, I don't want to play for anyone but the Yankees.
Maybe.
Yeah.
The Reds traded Kyle Farmer to the Twins in exchange for Casey Legumina. I don't even know who that is.
It's a cool name.
It is a cool name.
Yeah, Kyle Farmer is he's a
baseball player.
He is a guy. Yeah, he's can play shortstop. He can honestly play all over. He's just very solid 90 WRC plus type guy. Can hit 15 home runs, bat 250, play solid defense all over the field, and that's about it. And Casey Legumina was a 25-year-old pitcher that pitched in Double-A last year for the Twins. High A and Double-A. At Double-A, he threw 73 innings of 4.93 ERA. So I don't know what's going on there. He only started 13 games as well. So, sure. I guess the Twins were like, get rid of Gio Urshela. We want someone who's worse.
I think this is also potentially a depth play / emergency. Oh my God, what are we supposed to do? Because if they don't get Carlos Correa or strike out on all the shortstops, then they still have something and a guy that knows how to play shortstop. Other than that, I think this is a nothing move.
Yeah, the next one's linked as well.
Oh yeah, Pirates traded Kevin Newman to the Reds in exchange for Dowry Moretta. I don't know anything about Moretta, but I do.
I wrote him up last year.
Absolutely, talk about it.
Yeah, so I'll talk about Kevin Newman first. Literally the same as Kyle Farmer, except less power and better fielding and more contact. Just like a solid fielder that's gonna not hit any home runs and bat like 270 or 280, and that's about it. Dory Moretta, I thought was really interesting going into last year. I sort of predicted him to do what like Alexis Diaz did, come out of nowhere and be like the best reliever on the Reds and be the closer. He throws pretty hard. He's got a pretty good slider and he's pretty young. He debuted in 2021 and showed some cool stuff. And this last year, he wasn't too great. He had a 5.40 ERA across 38 innings, but I think he's got some potential. He should be able to factor into the Pirates bullpen as well. And they've been a lot better at pitching development the last couple of years, so that should be interesting. But yeah, I think Kevin Newman going to the Reds is obviously just a replacement for Kyle Farmer, and Newman has 2 years of control just like Farmer did. So I don't know, weird one.
Yeah, Reds making moves, weird moves. And more re-signing kind of news. The Padres re-signed Nick Martinez to a multi-year deal. Wow. They do that all the time. 3 years,
so weird.
$26 million. Look at, he's due $10 million in 2023, and he has a 2-year, $32 million club option. And if he declines that, he has a 2-year, $16 million player option. So club can get more money. If not, he'll still get paid if he takes the option. So
yeah,
Padres really, really good about just giving their guys money.
Yeah, because they got Robert Suarez back earlier in the offseason. Now they get Nick Martinez back, both of the guys that they got from overseas. Nick Martinez started out as a starter in the beginning of the season, then transitioned to the bullpen. He was pretty solid as a starter and then was even better as a reliever. Finished the season with a 3.47 ERA, starting 10 of the 47 games he appeared in across 106 innings. He struck out 21% of batters. He's not a big strikeout guy. It should be pretty interesting. One thing of note, I think that 2-year, $32 million club option is basically if he's a starter this year, right, and he's really good, then they're like, okay, that's starter money, $16 million a year. And then if not, then it's like, all right, $8 million a year, that's reliever money, and that's up to Martinez there. But yeah, I don't know, pretty interesting. I guess it's somewhat of a lottery ticket on a guy we still don't know much about, but he was very solid over in, I think he was in the KBO, and he didn't do much before with the Rangers. So I don't know, still hard to tell, but he'll be 32, 33, and 34 during this contract.
He was in Japan.
Japan, thank you.
He was in Japan with the Nippon Ham Fighters and the SoftBank Hawks, which are like, they've been like the Astros in Japan.
What?
The SoftBank Hawks, Fukuoka SoftBank Hawks. They had like a stretch where they won like four championships in a row or something stupid. They were like the best team and it wasn't even close.
Damn.
Another weird trade involving the Los Angeles Angels, because they do that all the time. The Milwaukee Brewers traded Hunter Renfroe to the Angels in exchange for Jansen Junk, Elvis Peguero, and Adam Seminaris, which all sound like made-up names that you find on players in MLB The Show. Weird trade, but I like this for the Angels. I really do.
Me too.
I also hate this for the Brewers because if those guys are good, then I will hate saying their names all the time.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting for the Angels. They could use an outfielder after getting rid of Brandon Marsh last deadline, so it'll help him. He'll pair out there with Trout and Taylor Ward. Renfroe's really good. I think people know him a lot for his power, but he's also a really great fielder. He's got a really strong arm as well, and also he looks exactly like Mike Trout. So they have two Mike Trouts basically. So I think that's really good for the Angels. This is one reason why we think they're somewhat the winners of the offseason so far, but they're going to have to keep making moves, and definitely more so on the pitching side. I think if we look at the return for the Brewers, Jansen Junk's actually pretty interesting. He does have some pretty solid pitches, and he's shown some promise in 6 starts during his major league tenure across the last couple of years. Not too crazy there, but I think he's interesting. I think Peguero is a shortstop.
They're all
pitchers. Yeah, Elvis Peguero is a reliever. He had a 7 ERA last year and a 27 ERA in 2021. So he'll be 26. Yeah, he'll be 26. He throws 96. I know nothing about him. And then the last one, Seminaris. I feel like that was a recent pick of theirs. I could be wrong. Adam Seminaris was drafted in 2020. Yeah, 5th round, 10th pick in that round. Last year, he made it to AAA for 34 innings, had a 5.24 ERA. He is 24 years old. He'll be 25. He's a 6'4" left-handed thrower. So I don't know. Brewers are pretty good with their pitching and their scouting and that kind of stuff. So they may be able to turn these guys into stuff. I think Junk is going to be the one who has the most impact this year. Peguero is obviously going to be out of the bullpen, but it should be interesting. I think the Angels really could come away looking really smart with this trade, but Renfroe only has 1 year of control.
Right. I think this comes down to Renfroe is just they need an outfielder who's a better player. Jansen Junk, I think you said he's going to end up having the most impact, but I also think that he's not very good. I saw this tweet looking up specific stuff for Jansen Junk because it felt like he was the most MLB relevant one, which is more or less correct. He had 7 MLB games last year where he had 4.74 ERA and 5.2 FIP in those games. Most of his year was in AAA, and he was not very good in AAA. He had 4.6 ERA there. I found this tweet, which I think is very funny, and it's by the Angels Below on Twitter, which I think is very funny too. It says, Jansen Junk stinks. Peguero has nice stuff, but couldn't accurately throw a ball to hit water if he was in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, and Seminaris is meh. But Renfroe posted a 124 WRC plus last season. So fan impact, awesome. Everyone, they apparently hated all of these guys.
Awesome.
Peguero in AAA last year seemed pretty good. He actually had a sub-3 ERA, which is decent. He does have a decent little fastball on him, which I think he relies on mostly as to put hitters away as well. Seminaris, he was a 5th rounder, which is interesting, but also he hasn't looked great either. The Brewers, though, are very good at pitching development. They're a lot like the Rays in that sense. So they'll get the most out of all 3 of these guys. And they'll end up having some sort of impact at the big league level. Would be my guess.
Yeah. We didn't read Renfroe's stats. He had 29 home runs, 124 WRC plus, and 2.5 F4 across 125 games this past year. Really solid, underrated player out there. So as long as he stays healthy, it'll be good for the Angels. But I don't know. I think that's about it on the offseason moves. I just wanted to mention Olivia Picardo making history for the Brown University as the first female NCAA Division I baseball student athlete ever, which is dope. I love equality. Glad that we're finally getting women in baseball, and I would love to see somebody make a debut in the majors, and I hope it's her, but very unlikely. But yeah, very cool. Just wanted to give that a passing mention before we call it a night.
Absolutely. Do you want to get to the All-MLB ballots, or do you want to save that for next time?
I will say we save it for next time. My mom's had dinner ready for a few minutes, and I'm getting text from my brother, so probably should wrap it up before I get reprimanded.
Sounds
you know about reprimanding, don't you, Mr. Bird?
Yeah, I yell at my kids all day.
Davis is not a father. He is a student.
Yeah. I teach the children.
Yes.
Bro, my room's cool now. I put up quotes from Yogi Berra. I've got pictures of Roberto Clemente.
Thank you.
Jackie.
I appreciate it. Spreading the good word of baseball.
Jackie, and then they're like, "Who are these people?" And I'm like, "I'm so glad you asked." And I get to tell them all about.
Speaking of new baseball decorations,
that's dope.
Got this in a thrift shop in Colorado. I had my sister bring it over when she visited. It's Eddie Murray.
Oh wow, that's dope.
Yes.
I need we got the new house. I need baseball stuff to put in the new house.
Yes, you do. You want your room looking like mine.
Absolutely. I need cool baseball stuff. But anyway, that's all we have for today. Thanks for joining us in our late night editions of Talking About Baseball, Free Baseball. I'm Dave Spurd. You can watch me shitpost on my Twitter at DVSBird, where I tweet about all sorts of stuff. Lately, it's been baseball, football, and Warmer 40K. So you can do that if you so wish. You can read all of our stuff at theathleteshub.org. We plan on collaborating and making a few things to go along with podcast episodes too, to make it a little bit more palatable and a little bit easier. In case you don't want to sit here and listen to us for the whole time, which you should anyway. Be cool, guy. This is my friend Jake Crumpler. He's the best. He makes great baseball stuff all the time. You can follow him on Twitter at Jake Crumpler, which you should totally do right now. Go do it right now before you even follow me.
I haven't gotten a follower in a long time.
I know. I got one the other day. Take that, Jake.
That's sick.
You
Yeah.
jerk. Jake has all sorts of stuff like
Writing for theathletesub.org, pitcherlist.com, and baseballhq.com. Podcasting over at Pitcherlist as well, and the In the Pen podcast. We just recorded one yesterday. It'll be out on Friday, day after Thanksgiving, Black Friday. So that'll be interesting. But
follow him on Twitch too.
I need to get back to streaming on
you should.
The Pokemon, but yeah, definitely tune in there. I think it's just Jake Crumpler as well. So yeah, follow me all over. I'm getting back into the groove of writing and stuff as we get into the off season, get away from the last season. But yeah, I hope everybody enjoys the holiday tomorrow.
Absolutely.
Not one of my favorites in terms of food and celebration style and, why it originally came to be, but the sentiment behind it has changed a lot over the decades. And so I think now it's sort of just a holiday where you think about what you're grateful for, obviously. Grateful to have a podcast host that actually is down to talk baseball every week, because
grateful
for you, I would just be talking to myself.
Thanks, Jake. Grateful for baseball. So we have some.
Yes, we are. I've said that probably the last 4 years.
Nerds.
Yes.
Yeah, check with us next week. We'll eventually. You need to follow the Athletes Hub as well on Twitter at Athletes Hub.
Yes,
I think that's right. Yeah, at Athletes Hub. I run the Twitter. I know that. So follow me and Devin, because we're the ones that post stuff on the Twitter.com. On the Twitter at Twitter.com. So follow us at Athletes Hub, where we post all sorts of stuff, new articles all the time: football, baseball, basketball. Watch the other podcasts like Deep Takes from 3. Check out everything. Got a bunch of guys over there that are sports fans like you. We're not like big guys that are really in the media scheme yet. We're trying, obviously, but we're fans just like you. So we're down to talk everything. Just reach out, talk to us. It's really cool. If you've watched so far, please continue to do so, and check back with us every week when we try to do this. We'll eventually get a consistent schedule. It's just tough. But that's all we got for today. So see ya.